Welcome, CityState 2 fans, to CityState 2 with Omnius Prime. Episode 5, Mining and Trade for Dummies, version 1.2.0D. So here I am in the brand new 1.2.0D version of the game, and Andy's put in some new features, and I want to be able to point them out. And sometimes they really are cool, and sometimes they can cause some problems and cause you some worries and stuff. It definitely has changed the way the game is going to be played from now on. Now, one of the new features. Now, I've been helping Andy with bug reports and stuff, and actually, putting my map folders in Dropbox so he can actually play with them and stuff. Now, one of the things he needs is like good test beds. Now, one of the new features of the game is these, see these rotating diamonds on top? They're like a little error message. Now, these particular ones are telling me that I don't have electricity. Now, if I come down to my power usage down here, I've got 90%, okay? So now, when you first come into the game, numbers don't always jive, so you've got to let clock run a little bit. Now, if I come over here with the census tool and look at these buildings, you can see they have no problem. So now, one of the rules of thumb is if you see these different error messages like electricity or water or stuff, now you might have a legitimate water or power problem, and then you just go and you add some more capacity and run clock, and it'll go away. And if we just go ahead and we run a little clock, you can see the problem goes away. Okay? So now, I'm going to start off right off the bat. Let's talk about mining, okay? Now, before we can do some mining, we need to do some prospecting. So we're going to come over here in the industrial zones. We have this new prospecting tool. And so I'm going to just, let's just prospect away here. That's going to cost me about 162,000, and let me just come down to here. Oh, there's the water. Okay, so we'll just go ahead. Now, as you can see on the map, it's uncovered some like purple. This is like oil, and the pink is like gas or something. What I'm not seeing right now is any brown. You know, I don't have any brown on this map. I used to have brown on this map, but Andy made some changes, one of which was to increase resource. And somehow, I ended up not getting any brown on this map anymore. And but I do see some increased resources. Now, after you do your prospecting, okay, you got to have road structure so you can be able to place these oil fields. Now, they're a pretty big building. They're the size of a prison, okay? So what I ended up doing is changing my street layout so that I'm doing, I'm zoning on both sides of the street. Now, instead of having 3 streets in between here, I have 2. That allows me to place these fields here, nice and easy. So now you can see the capacity. That's 276, 291. Oopsie, 275. There was a 300, but that was like if I'm off the road. So 275, 291, 276, 291 it is, okay? Now let's go ahead. Now, you might notice that in my basic manufacturing down here, I have negative demand. One of the things Andy was worried about was, can we build? if we have negative demand? And the answer is yes. So let's see, 125, 140, 147, 33. Let's go 147 here. Okay. Now my rule of thumb is I won't build on anything less than 90. And that is by trial and error. I've done that, and it just it doesn't give you enough resource and trade capacity to make it worthwhile. 155, I think, right there. Okay, and let's see. Do I have another one? Do 211. So let's see. 190, 211, 207. How about 211? And we'll come over here, 92 and 92, 101. I don't think so. I think I'm going to end up kind of cutting it a little short so I can put some commercial in. Now, this is going to be dirty industry, so carbon capture to the rescue. Yeah, this stuff works. Okay. And I'm kind of just trying to place them around. Whoa. Almost got ahead of myself there. Let's go here. Kind of, doing a four corners approach almost. And especially along these avenues where traffic will cause some pollution. Okay. And how about one more right here? Okay, now, before I get into my next segment and start running clock, I'm going to go ahead and save my progress. Now, you can see down here my unemployment says 1%. Initially, when I came in, it was like 7%. But right now, the numbers just aren't really jiving yet because this should be about 6%. That was where it was when I was last running the clock. Now, I'll be back in a moment. I'm doing this in shorter segments now. I recorded an almost 20-minute segment and had my computer freeze on me. So I lost my whole recording and stuff, and my progress. So now what I did is I built over here and along the avenues here. I built some zone commercial, so that I'm going to have some demand. Now, what I'm going to want to do is also build up some residential now and create some, have some more customers and stuff. So what I'm going to do is, whoopsie, come here. Now here's a new feature that Andy has put in lately. Now let me just go here, and let's okay, it's working now. There. Okay. Now one of the things now I'm zoning. This is like a residential area, and I've done my street layout a bit different. Instead of like I said, the 3 per, I'm doing 2 in between, and now zoning on both sides of the street. Now what I do is I place like my schools and my public utilities down at the end of the streets. Now one of the new changes that Andy made was in one of my videos, I talked about how these buildings jump around when you upgrade them. And so what he did is he made them so that they open up in the bottom left-hand corner here. They no longer jump around, so when you click to upgrade them, you can click, click, click nice and fast, and they're not jumping around. Now, what I need to do is let's get me some industrial here. Yeah, no, I only do industrial zoning, man. So now, and always in increments of 48. So 144 there. Always like to try to leave some room. So let's see, 192. Okay. 144. Let's see, right there, I think. 144. Now let's create just a little bit more demand and put in some. Whoops, wrong way. Right there, 192. I'm gonna put in some 144. Now, what I'm not going to do, like I've been doing in these other residential areas, is putting in the walkways and trees and all this other stuff. Right now, you can kind of like see it a little more bare and stuff. And here's an edenium I put down here. I'm trying to increase my birth rate. So let's go ahead and now what I need to do. I have a problem. As you can see, my basic manufacturing is negative, and I have very little advanced manufacturing demand. One of the new features in the game is Intercity Travel and trade. So let's come over here and look at the economy. Now, over here on this right-hand side is kind of a new setup for figuring out inflation. And the exchange rate and stuff like this. Now, right now, it shows I have a -7% imports. Okay, so I'm importing a whole bunch of stuff because I guess it's cheaper to import than to manufacture locally. And I've been having trouble lately trying to get my manufacturing, my local manufacturing, to actually build up and stuff. So now, one of the things I've been thinking about is, okay, I've got to increase. I've got to do something to fix the problem with the economy, with my basic and advanced manufacturing. I need to make it more competitive in relation to the trade, the international trade. So what I thought up was, yeah, I've got to do taxes. Now, my esteemed friend and fellow CityState 2 companion, Rabodi, he's been, he suggested that, well, maybe tax policy could affect the international trade. And at first I said, nah, that's not going to work. But then as I had to stop and clean up my coffee pot and stuff and get ready for tomorrow, I had some time to think about, I need to cut my costs locally to make my local production more saleable locally. So what I've got this, and this is a new feature of the trade feature. So what I'm going to have to do to reduce my costs locally to make my goods cheaper, so that my factories will build up, is I'm going to reduce my tax from 6.5% for basic manufacturing to 3%. Now, I did end up telling Rabodi, I was wrong to say initially no, the tax policy wouldn't have an effect. So what I'm going to do, I haven't even tested this, so this is going to be interesting. I'm going to reduce my office down to 5% just to pick up a little demand. So basically how this is going to work for trade, retail and office are like your negatives. They are your demand. Your basic and advanced manufacturing, they are your supply. Now, the other factor that will help me be more competitive is to have a better exchange rate to help try to reduce my inflation factor, which is already a very low 1.2%. So now we can buy dollars or sell dollars, which is a new feature. We have dollar reserves, and you can even keep track of money printed when you print money. Now, currently my exchange rate is 1 USD equals 3.21 CSD, okay? Now, I can buy dollars to basically try to strengthen my exchange rate, okay? Which should, in some point, reduce my inflation rate, make my goods more competitive versus the international. Now, what's happening here is it's going down in a straight line at like 0.12 or 0.13 when you see the numbers, but actually I would say it's probably 0.125% that it's going down in a reduction here. Now, one of the things that I've been talking to Andy about is when you buy US dollars, you can never make them more stronger than a US dollar. So when we get to doing this, 1 USD equal 0.96, okay, we're into an unrealistic situation. Now here it's capping off of 0.83. I did it earlier when I was playing around the game, and it was down to 0.3. It let me get down to 0.38. But I'm doing what I can, what the game's allowing me to do right now to see if I can't lower my inflation rate. Let's see if my reducing tax rates on basic manufacturing stuff is going to have the desired effect of making this area right here grow. I never had a problem. I had my trade balanced really nicely at between about 0.02 negative, which implied a slight amount of imports. Now here I have a problem. I have a slum right there. Now here's a neat tool. Obviously this one's out in the open so I can see it easily. But one of the neat things is this underground train track will help you spot slums, especially if they're see, covered up with trees and stuff. So let's just go ahead now. I'm real big about, normally I stop the clock to do this and then put my trees back in. Now, where did that other slums go to? Just pull up my little underground train tracks. It's right there. So I can go ahead and whoops, I guess I just destroyed a building there, and I know what it was. It's a building there. This is why I do it when it's stopped instead of running. But I'm very aggressively get after the slums, okay? Now let's get back to here, and let's see. At least right now, they're not showing, you know, the error message of let's see, the census tool here. So I'm actually picking up now some employees here, and now they're starting to build up. So it looks like my little trick here to now look at, see how the advanced manufacturing, how that jacked up. Now my basic manufacturing is always going to be really super low, because when we come over here, the problem is the education. The education is causing too much of a boost to advanced manufacturing and too much of a negative to basic manufacturing. Look at that, minus 125 growth bonus, okay? And it's because of the education. That needs to really change. Well, now my imports exports is at minus 8.2, okay? Now here is are my ports, okay? I've got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ports, okay? And whoa, look at this. My traffic is just exceeding my capacity like crazy. So, this is now one of the new problems that Andy's got to fix up for us, because an unintended consequence is that trade knows no bounds. port capacity doesn't matter, and you really need to. Now let's build a port. Now I like that. Look at that big green arrow, man. That's so cool. So let's just go ahead and plop that baby in there. And let clock run a little bit, and capacity will be 22.5. Now it'll drop that traffic down a little bit after a while. Hopefully it'll get to green and stuff. There we go. Now down to 20,000. Now one of the problems here is that there's no limit to how much trade will come in. Port capacity doesn't matter. And so it's kind of like, man, if the trade can overwhelm the local demand for my manufacturing. Now, as we can see, it's starting to build up in this area where it had been collapsed really badly. Let's get the census tool out. Let's take a look at... So now this is building up at 858, 484. You can see the trade balance down at the bottom line, okay? Trade balance plus 858, okay? Trade balance plus 462. Now look at the trade balance over here. This is office minus 44. Okay, here's office minus 43. So you see, now here's a retail, minus 518. So this is where, like the goodies, where you really see the demand go up is for the retail. Okay. Now my retail and office bars are up pretty nicely. I'm waiting here. I'm not zoning more because what I want is to get this area here built up. Then what I'm going to do is zone the industry along the roads here and stuff. Now, I'm going to go ahead and save again to make sure that the computer doesn't freeze up on me again. And I'm going to move along and show you a few other things and explain some other things about the new features for trade and mining and all this good stuff. Here we are, and a little bit of a different look. I'm on the national map now because I want to show you a few things on the national level. Now, before I go any further, I want to have a little fun with the map because I decided on a new map scheme. So let's see, if I went blue and I went yellow, and for color C I go red, and then I pick that background and that background, I can have a new flag. Slava Ukraine! All right. Now, what I want to show you, now here, up here is a new thing, the total trade by ports and airports capacity. Right now I've got 6273 out of 6521. You know, I'm just barely keeping ahead of it. Now, in my first city of Omni Prime, now I built this in version 1.1.4, okay? So it had my old street layout. It has no mines or anything like that. But it does have some port capacity. And I'm kind of like scratching my head about, the port capacity and how I can relate it to what I see as I'm building them and stuff, you know, and their capacity. Now here it says that I got 3596K in trade going through 1575K of ports capacity. But actually what's happening is that it was being picked up over here because now I've got that 4946 here of capacity and only using up 2676 of it. So I've got excess capacity here, okay? But when in a little bit earlier version, 1.0, 2.0, maybe C, I built some ports, okay? Now, and I sent Andy a bug report. And at the time, I had one fully developed airport. Now, this new version, make airports great again. Okay, that's what it's done. Make airports great again. Now, I finally found a use for just, upgrading my airports to the maximum, um, to help with the trade. And now we have ports and stuff. Okay, but I had built one fully functional airport and three ports per city. At the time, my trade port capacity for Omni Prime here was 1575K, which is what we see here. Now, over here, okay, my capacity was 4142 out of that 4946. And that's with three ports, right? The exact same capacity, the exact same number of airport and three ports. One gave me 1575, one gave me 4142. And I'm starting to wonder if what happened is it increased the capacity of Omni Secundus because it was pulling in trade from Omni Prime and running it through its port. And that might have increased its port capacity. But when he first put it out in 1.2.0, I had calculated that the airport gave 10 times its capacity, and the ports gave about 5 times their capacity. And then when he made this change on the port capacity or something, then it just in about the C version, then it kind of went screwy. So hopefully Andy's going to be able to figure this out. But now one problem is going to be, what if you're in a little landlocked area, okay, and you don't have ports? I mean, it's almost like you're going to have to build a little port area like I've done at the bottom left-hand corner of Omni Prime here. And the bottom left-hand corner now is stretching across, almost halfway across the map in Omni Secundus, okay? Now, the other problem, intercity travel. So over here, I was trying to fix an unemployment rate problem. That it's too low, okay? And so what I was doing is I was bulldozing offices and manufacturing, and then building residential. In other words, I increased my population by like 140,000, and I must have killed about 20, 30,000 jobs. And I had it momentarily at the beginning of the process, fluctuating my unemployment between 3 and 4%, and then it dropped down to between 2 and 3%, and it was like that saying, the hurrieder I go, the behinder I get. And then I realized, oh man, they're going over to Omni Secundus to get jobs. But they're showing the affecting the unemployment rate, of course, in Omni Prime where they live. And now the intercity travel, which is right here, okay, number of jobs currently shared by this city with its neighbors, it was up to like 90,000. And then supposedly in the D version here, he put a cap on it at 50,000, but no. I ran clock afterwards, and it went from 90,000 down to 69,000. So the 50,000 cap, yeah. Now the other thing is, Andy suggested, I saw this on the Steam discussion board, something about cutting connections between cities. And this is something that I've been raising with Andy. I actually tried that. I actually went into both cities and cut the highway connections from each side. And each time I went into the different cities, they kind of like regrew. So I could not get my intercity connections severed to where I could cut off the intercity travel. What I realized afterwards was what I should have done was I put some ports in just to help alleviate the port problem. and wanted to, direct my trade through from Omni Prime through my Omni Prime ports. But what I should have done was worked on Omni Secundus. Now, Omni Secundus at the time had like a 10% unemployment rate, so there was a lot of open jobs here. So it was pulling them in, and then I went into Omni Secundus and started building jobs and reducing my unemployment rate. But I should have done it in reverse. But before trade and intercity travel started really working, that was never an issue. So this is another new feature that you got to be careful of. Is this intercity business is going to be very different. Okay, now, as you can see, now my unemployment rate is down to like 5%, but I've got 30,000 supposedly going the other way or something. I'm not quite sure. Now my GDP per capita is 270,000. So I wanted to show you this because yes, the national map means something now, and the intercity stuff means something, and having intercity connections. Now, one thing I was showing Andy, I'm going to do go in between the maps and show this in more detail about severing road connections. So I'll be back in another segment. Yeah, I know this isn't CityStates 2. This is CityStates 1, Andy's first game. So what I wanted to do was show you this balance of trade screen right here, okay? I love this. You have like food stuff, iron, oil, gold, manufactured. This was a really cool balance of trade situation. You have price per unit of each of these items. You have production, you have consumption, and then you have revenue from the items. So what you're not consuming, you're selling for extra revenue, okay? And it was a really cool system of the way you could use resources like oil, like that's up in the top left by the what looked like sand areas, okay. And then over here you see some mountains just a little closer to the center. That gives us the iron, okay. In the center here, there's some jungles. That gives us gold. And then, of course, farms for food stuff. And then you could build factories which would use varying amounts of the different resources to build finished goods. Now, this was, I was hoping that he was going to replicate this in CityState 2, but unfortunately, that didn't come about. But with this, in between this balance of trade and what he's doing with the balance of trade and stuff like that in exchange rate in CityState 2, could have an interesting CityStates 3. Here we are back again. I off camera did a little zoning of manufacturing. So now let's take a look and see how these pop up. Now you can see over here I have a lot of advanced manufacturing demand. Okay, so now what I want to see is how quick will these factories now turn into advanced manufacturing. Now I always zone 48 wide. At least I hope I was zoning 48 wide. Let's see. Yeah, I think those are 4x4 lots. Two, 3, 4. Yeah. Okay, so those are 4x4 lots. So now they're taking their sweet little time building up now. I mean, it used to be that they'd snap it up real quick. Now, let's just see about, go back to the economy. Now I'm at minus 7.8 on imports. Okay. Um, Now, Andy's put a lot of changes in here in the economy screen over here. This is now under stats. This is the inflation equation, where we used to have three numbers: trade balance, unemployment, housing demand. And then he switched and took out the unemployment and put in exchange rate. But that really didn't work out. But one of the things, whoops, okay, I need some juice. Let's just go ahead and come down to my, it's always good to place your power stuff where you can easily find it. Oh, while I'm down here. Now you look at that, man. I've got, what, 5, 6, 7, 8 ports there, man. And they're just jacked full. Are they? Of course, look at that. They're already overflowing, okay? And it's like, you see this right here? This is a highway where I ended it right here and then extended my ocean area over here so I could build 3 more ports. Notice I built the highway area here. And it looks like now that I've run out of ports, I'm going to have to now use the terrain tool. And, oh, I just love this terrain tool. Okay, let's flatten this baby out like that. Whoops. And, of course, one of the things you have to do is bulldoze roads first. Duh. Okay, that'll even it out nice. And then, so what I'm going to end up having to do is create a channel into there, build some more ports over here. See, this is where now port capacity has to limit things. Now, look at this cute little port area that I made here, where I've used the walkways. I fell in love with the walkways. I never used them before. And on this map, I just went to town, went nuts with the walkways. Creating this cool little ramp on down and stuff like that. Okay, let's run clock, and there you go. Now the power outage is over with. Placing some parks and stuff in here. I mean, my residential areas are just so beautiful compared to before using the walkways. Come on, let's go find me a nice residential area, okay? And you can see how I just went to town with the walkways and trees. And then I started evolving my layout to where I'm using these little small parks now and just stringing them together, okay? These little guys here. And like here's one of the large parks or plaza right here, okay? Now what was funny was I just, really went to town. There's another one of those slums, okay? Just delete them, bulldoze them, okay? And what was funny is my park score. Let's come over here and just take a look. Oh, it's 1! Yay! Because I haven't been building more park stuff in this new area, my park score just went up from 0 to 1. So what I'm reporting to Andy and kind of showing him on my screen here is, yeah, Andy, see my park score? Look at my environment. See, 95. It's not the environment. The problem is I'm building too many parks, and I think what I've done is I've blown up your equation. Normally, I'd always be around, I'd always be at 120, okay? And but then I just got carried away with the parks in Omni Prime and now Omni Secundus, and it's just kind of like, nah, man, I want to stick to building the parks and stuff. And but just as a test, what I wanted to do was, yeah, build this area, don't put in the walkways and parks and stuff. And see how it would affect the score, so I could actually report this to Andy that yes, the problem I'm having with parks is I'm building too many. So hopefully you can fix that so I can build more and make my cities all nice and pretty so that everybody can. Okay. Here I have over 1 million population. My traffic congestion is 38%. My new road layout is totally awesome. Totally awesome. Let's come back up here and take a look. Now I do have red, you know, but I'm not worried about that too much. What I'm done now is I've decided that avenues are the way to fly. Okay, so I've got like what I call here. Let me just come around here. A quadrant, okay, where I'll and yeah, I work with boom. And oh, look at those little buggers. Yeah, this right there has got to be boom. Okay. So this is what I call a block. Okay, with 4 quadrants. Now I just to try to, so I have 4 quadrants to a block. Now what I do, like I've been doing, like I would do a whole block as residential or a whole block as business before, but with this city I decided to now be more modular and mix my industry and residential together in a more modular fashion. And like I started off with 2 residential to 2 industry per block, okay? And what I would do is I would run the residential streets into the, the residential roads into the tree-lined streets of the industry. And in the industry, man, I like, you know, plant trees in every open spot, okay? Now, so yeah, this really has helped my traffic congestion. I'm even for the first time trying out highways, okay? And what I did do is, you can see I've got rail tracks all around here in these first 2 strips, and then in this highway section they disappear, and what I actually have are metro stops. Isn't that totally cool? So I went underground. Boom. Okay, and you can see right here that connecting tube, which is this guy right, that thing right there, okay? That is where you connect up from above ground to below ground. Now, another change that Andy made is trains run on both sides of the track now, and like into the stations within both sides. So that has been really kind of cool. But yeah, I decided, you know, what I wanted to do was get away from the tracks, because you can see how that kind of screws up being able to place stuff along these nice avenues and stuff. So then I went back to the metros, and then I place a bus stop right next across the street from the metros. And let's just take a look over here. You can see I've got about maybe 30% driving. I've got maybe 15, 17% bus, and I've got about 50% riding the trains. Trains are good. But notice I have absolutely no intercity travel. So that's another little feature that Andy's got to fix so that our cities show intercity travel. I didn't build any air taxis, so that's why I don't see any air taxi traffic. Now, so yeah, and Andy actually did some improvements like reducing traffic 20%, which is really helpful. Andy's been able to use like my previous big city of Rossack, which has got about 1.5 million. as a stress test for traffic. So I know that Andy says, no, don't, you know, do all this high density zoning. But what I like to do is give Andy I like to stress test city building games. Okay, I like to see how efficient I can make the cities run and stuff. And ooh, let's just let clock run again and get the traffic running. And I'm running, and you can see how the trains are running and stuff. And let's come down here and just get a little ground level view here. Yeah, that looks pretty cute now, huh? With the walkways, kind of looks more like the big city and stuff. Now, if only those walkway lights would light up, now that would be beyond totally awesome. Now, let's see, where am I? See, there's the rail tracks. And here's an avenue. And now let's see if I can't do it, kind of straighten this out on the fly. Ooh, run over by the trucks. I guess I'm just better off doing this. And just running across. Now here, yeah, because now here I have bus stops where there's no train tracks because, see, I couldn't run the stations every intersection. Okay, now here what I was doing was putting the bus stop in front of the train station. Let's get back here. That was cool. There was a delivery truck at that building. So right there you can see the train station with two sets of tracks now. That's a new feature. So yeah, you know, on the street level, things are looking pretty cool. You know, I like the level of detail. And I've been trying to make my city look cool, you know, with all the parks and stuff. So hopefully Andy will fix that up for us so that we can go to town with the parks and stuff and not have the park score go to near zero. I'll be back in a moment. I want to thank Andy for putting my name at the top of the special thanks list in the credit screen that goes into the game. And he's been enjoying my helping him, as well as my pal Rabodi. And one of the things I like is that Andy listens. A lot of developers think they're too smart to listen. And Andy is very open-minded. He also responds. Now, he's obviously limited in how much he can do at in each update and stuff. And I was really impressed that after he did 1.20, yes, there were some problems that came up. He responded with 3 different quick updates to try to fix some of the problems, just to make it more playable. But, you know, he can't just fix them all. He's got to now focus on his next big scheduled update and get to work on that stuff. And then hope that we can help him with showing him stuff. And so I really want to thank Andy for the special thanks. And just so that you know that, no, I'm not picking on Andy. I'm actually, this is like my first YouTube video bug report. So I'm trying to go through and show Andy some of the problems that are popping up now with the new version, unintended consequences, okay? And also to give players warning about, okay, you might experience some new problems here. And kind of let you know, okay, this is kind of how you need to fix things. Like I was doing there, where I didn't practice that fix. I just decided to do it on my own. I'm an accountant for over 40 years, so when it comes to economics, I'm very good. I'll be back in a moment. I think it's time for a helicopter ride. Okay, here's my helipad right here. Okay. Here's the helipad state copter mode. And it looks like I can't fly my helicopter. It tells me to build a helipad first. So let's come up here. Let's try building another helipad. Now let's just see if this one will work. Hey, there we go. So somehow that the first one didn't want to work, but I got the second one to work. So Andy will have a new problem to look for. Okay, let's get this baby up in the air. Let's get rid of all of this stuff. Okay. Now, let's see. Now that I'm way up here, let's see. I want to go back to the port area. Now, there's definitely some learning curve going on with the new version. Now let's come over to the port area and see if I can actually do some cool flying here. Because one of the things that I kind of did that's a little bit of a comical situation here, okay, is you see how these freighters are going in line here. Now look where my, let's just stop here. Let's look at my sailboats here. Now soon my sailboats will start to turn, okay? And they'll start to run the gauntlet of the big freighters. So I kind of just had fun with it. You can see that red one's going across real good, but this blue one here in the foreground, crunch me city, man. And here comes this one, okay, and it's going to sail into the freighters, you know, ramming speed. So I just wanted to show that little bit of levity there. But yeah, you know, this is an addictive, fun little game, and you know, this is kind of interesting to do a YouTube video to actually show Andy the problems rather than trying to write up a bug report, and it's just kind of like so hard to explain in words. Some problems sometimes. Now here's something that's kind of nice with my highways, and like I said, you know, my crazy flying here. Hopefully I can get in between these. But now what I'm thinking is that these highways, now I ran two basically going the same way, but I wanted to simulate putting more, you know, the highway capacity in, but next time I'm going to run one going each way. But I'm just trying to see if the highways will do something to improve the traffic congestion. And like right now, I'm at like about 35% or so, 38%. Woo! Bingo time! Okay. I told you my flying is really bad. So hold on, let's go in here. My park score is 0. Oops. And let's see, traffic congestion 36%. That's awesome. Okay. Here my USD is 0.92. I'm at inflation 1.4. Okay, buying dollars doesn't help me any. Let's take a look real quick. Minus 7.8 on imports and exports. Woo. Yep, and it's just, you know, that's where port capacity has to constrain trade. Otherwise, you know, we're never going to have enough trade capacity to do trade, and we're going to have to build stuff locally.